Hello, everybody. Come on in. We're having a few technology issues, and we have the wonderful Kristie Bradley, but unfortunately, it's causing us a wee problem, the tech. So we're trying to sort it for you. So please stay with us because Kristie has an amazing story to tell you, and hopefully, we're going to get it sorted in a couple of minutes for you. So in the meantime, I wish I could sing and I would attempt to sing you a song while you were waiting, but you would definitely all bail if that was the case. So we're just going to hang on now and see if Kristie can connect with us. And once she does, then she'll be with us. So you test all these things and you test your Zoom earlier in the day, and then for some reason technology just goes haywire. I'm sure you've all been there. But we were working hard to get, Kristie's working hard in the background to get her connection back on. So she's probably going to log back in now in a couple of moments and then we get started. But like Kristie has an amazing story. What I love at the moment is that all of those who are on our 7-week challenge to create the business success plan to absolutely make 2021 the best year in business to have. Part of the process we're in right now is discovering your why, your purpose. And when Kristie joins us and we start to talk about her story and everything else, we will see that you will see that it's a process that can take time. It's a process that develops over time, but Kristie certainly discovered that. So hopefully she's going to be back to us now in a couple of moments, and she'll be able to share her story because she's a true inspiration. Kristie was involved in the very early stage of the think tank, and she was able to bring so much inspiration and learning and everything to the whole think tank process. So she's a wonderful person with a heart of gold, and her story is inspirational. It's absolutely inspirational, and I know you will thoroughly enjoy it and get loads from her. Now, if any of you guys could sing, I could invite one of you to come live with us and sing us an old song while we're waiting for Kristie to try and reconnect and get her Wi-Fi running. Have we any volunteers? Tell us in the chat there if you're willing to come in and tell us, sing us a song, or if you don't want to sing a song, why not tell us a joke in the chat and we can all share. Just make sure that your default to panelists and attendees. So when you click on the chat button, there's panelists and attendees. So what's happening out there at the moment? So there's a lot happening, isn't there, with 2020. I think it's a year that none of us will ever forget for so many reasons. Luckily, we're all staying healthy and safe here, and I hope that you are all too. And it's interesting because on this side of the pond, Europe is starting to go into various stages of lockdown again. I know some people, like in Wales, are getting ready to come out of it, and then England is going into it, and we've been in it now for how many days now? I lose track. It's nearly 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks on Thursday that we went back into lockdown in Ireland, and they're saying we won't be out of lockdown until the 1st of December. So luckily for our clients worldwide, because we're manufacturing in classes manufacturing, and because we can social distance with our people in manufacturing, that they're all able to function. And then of course our client happiness and our marketing and our sales and our finance and everyone else involved in the business that can work from home. I've been working from home now since March. And so it's interesting. Zoom has been a savior for us. It's getting in the way tonight with its link with Kristie and Wi-Fi, but it has helped enormously for us to connect. So every single day we connect for a morning meeting before we start the day, and we all see how everyone is. And it's interesting, when you interact with your people and you see how various different people react to different things, and how it can affect them, because that connection is important, isn't it? So even just reaching out to people and saying hello and saying how are you is so important in life. And Jerry, I'm not going to sing a song, but if you have one, I'm happy to bring you in and for you to sing, because literally you would run the other direction. I don't have 2 notes in my head. I cannot sing for nothing. But when we talk, what I'm really interested in is looking at the importance of photography and why photographers are photographers. And quite often, a lot of people say to me, Ronan, the photographer down the road, they're my competition. And then you look at them and you say, no, every business is unique. They're not the same. Oh, here we are. How are you? Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you guys now. I think
there you go. There you go. You're welcome. They were getting really nervous because we thought that I was going to have to sing. And so I'm going to go over to Facebook now and just connect with Facebook. So while I'm doing that, Kristie, can you just tell us, how you got your initial love for photography? Because I know it goes way, way back, right? To when you were very, you love to create things. So just tell us in those early years how you got your love for photography. And I'll go over to Facebook and go live in there while you're doing that.
Okay, sure. I don't think it's any unique type of story, but I've always been interested in any kind of creating and art. I always, since I was little, loved making art, drawing art. I have books that my sister and I would draw the pictures and write stories. So I've always had the innate love and passion for creating anything. And then with photography, it was just always a part since high school. We were lucky that at my high school, we had a darkroom course. And so I learned kind of the fundamentals of photography then. And that kind of was a base. And then when I went off to college, I was an athlete and I wasn't able to give the time to art and photography that I would have liked if I wanted to major in that. So I kind of put it on the back burner, and I still did some of that on the side, but in college, I was an athlete and that was my full-time job. So it was always there, but sort of in the back of my brain. And then when I graduated college, I graduated with a communications and journalism degree. So I got the opportunity to work for a small company doing advertisements and journalism, but that actually turned into me photographing for them as well. So it's kind of funny that it just came back into my life and I fell in love with it all over again. But the other side of me is the teaching side. And so I found that I was missing that. And so while I was working for this company and getting to create, I felt like something was missing. And so I wanted to combine those things. So I went back into teaching, and I really just think there's so many points in my life where I was just really blessed with opportunities that were presented to me that I honestly don't know that I had parts in them. I felt like when I look back, I'm like, wow, what great timing that came into my life to create this opportunity that then led me to, obviously where I am today. So it's just always been something I've loved.
So, from an early age, you had that creativity piece, and then you studied it in college, right? As well as your career as an athlete. But what I'm fascinated about, because in BSA at the moment, in BSA Mastermind, there's a lot of photographers on a journey of creating their business plan. And we're sort of talking about your why and your purpose. And, and you came up with tonight, the topic being bringing your purpose to life. And when I look at people like you who are so inspirational and have discovered their why and discovered their purpose, it comes to me that it's a journey. And when I see your bio and I read your bio about where you've come and where you've got to with your purpose, as we'll talk to about in a moment, but I'd just like you do you think it is a journey? That sort of
absolutely. I think it's always a journey. And even where I am today, I honestly could have never imagined me sitting here in my studio. That's not something that, if you even asked me, obviously I've been in my studio for about 4.5 years, but even 6 years ago, I was kind of like, no, I don't really think where I was in my life at that time, that wasn't something that maybe I didn't have the confidence to do, or I just didn't think it fit into my family's, what they needed from me, or we needed. But now it's like, wow, I love where I'm at. So I think it's a constant journey, and sometimes you can't always anticipate where things will take you. And I'm a goal setter. I'm all about goals. I'm all about, I love the business planning. I love this time of year when we're starting to slow down and we can kind of sit down, reevaluate, and set our goals for the next year. That's one of my favorite things to do. But I'm always pleasantly surprised as I revisit the years past that sometimes there are places that I end up that I didn't even imagine. And I think that's really interesting and amazing kind of part of life and business.
Absolutely. So, but I want to go back in time, because before we get into your purpose and what it means and, how you got there, your role as a teacher, how do you think that sort of informed your final direction and your purpose?
I mean, I think that was a huge role in multiple ways. So I think it formed it in that I love the impact that as a teacher, I was lucky to work as a teacher where I was in smaller classes, because as a photography teacher, it's a special, so everyone doesn't take it. So I had smaller course classes that I could get to know my students. And in some cases I had them, 2 years in a row. So I knew them already and I got to work with them again. And then the other side of it, and not to be negative, but I think my role as a teacher made me realize about myself that I didn't want to be like confined by somebody else's idea of what my day should look like or how I can impact other people. And I love being a teacher. My husband's a teacher as well. And I respect so much what teachers do, but I also think it's a difficult job to have because there's so many things that you kind of have to be careful of. We have to, we have so many testing and regulations, and in some ways our poor teachers' hands are tied in what they can do. And they sometimes lose their ability to do more of what's in their heart. And so sadly, I hate to say that, but sadly that realization pushed me a little bit more toward, opening my own business so that I had more control over how I was able to affect my own community and work with the teams that I get to work with.
So when we just deep dive into that, I want to deep dive a little bit further into this if we could, because I think it's important. And I think why it's important is that I know my why came from just my life experiences and talking to people and seeing people and then understanding my strengths and how I could leverage them. And it's obvious to me that you've gone through a sort of a similar discovery, along the way in life's discovery. And as you say, often we sort of get there, maybe it's not in our plan, but it just sort of, everything comes together in a way that makes it happen, whatever that is. So I'd love to just explore with you, when you were a teacher of teens and you had those smaller classes, was there something you observed within teens, something that was missing or some way that you could help them? Is that where you saw that opportunity to help others come first?
I think that's always been something that I've enjoyed, even when I was younger, and in any of the kind of experiences that I liked. I worked with young children as in a daycare. I just kind of liked to be able to have a positive impact on children and teens. But I think as a teacher, I kind of goes back again to, I saw, and my own teen, the confidence factor. Like, growing up is so hard. And in this day and age, I can't even wrap my head around what they're dealing with. I know that's so cliche, but the social media, I mean, it's crazy. I know I would have struggled with a lot at their age. And I just wanted to be able to be a positive part of being able to help them deal with that in some way. I know I'm not, and I know what I'm doing isn't like the end all of end all. And I know there are community of people who are helping these teens, but I just wanted to be able to have a small factor in that, or, you know, start a snowball. Like sometimes it's just something they do with my program lights a fire in them. And years down the road, I see that they're doing something. And so that also parallels with teaching, because with teaching, a lot of times we didn't know if we were making an impact on kids until they might have, you know, even recently I had a student who he is a photographer now. He's doing amazing. I'm so proud of him. He has an amazing style. He's running his own business, and he says to me, I credit you. And I'm like, what? Like, you were amazing then, you know, like I didn't do anything, but he does. And that's, and it always, you know, I'm always I'm surprised, but honored. And I think that is parallels with when I work with them here, and even within their sessions, not, you know, aside from my program, I have teens that I work with who don't see themselves the way that, you know, I or their family see themselves. So when we can take a picture that captures them, and this goes with any photography, if you're doing headshots, beauty, family, as photographers, we can make an impact on people. And I think, Rona, you know, this like in such a bigger way. And I wanted to just take that beyond photography.
And was there a reason why you decided to fulfill that purpose by specializing working with teens?
So it's kind of funny because this goes back to the whole, like, I didn't imagine myself being here. When I opened my business, I was on maternity leave with my oldest son. So it was about 10, 11 years ago. And I was on maternity leave from teaching, and I'm like, I'll just open a business. So I, you know, went through all the stuff, and I was lucky that I had the time to kind of do that and set up my business properly. And I said to people, you know, I do not want to photograph high school seniors. I'm going to work with kids and families. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. And it's so funny that that's kind of how I felt. And I even thought maybe I would be more into commercial or product photography, that kind of thing. But I think that came more maybe from confidence. And over time working with people, because it's anyone who I think, I don't know, I still always, you know, it's hard to work with one-on-one with people and make them feel confident. And so I think that was sort of maybe a growth thing for me. And then obviously I was teaching and working with these kids, and then I just fell in love with it. It wasn't something that I started off saying, this is what I'm going to do. And then when I found out that I really loved it, I was like, okay, I love this, but how can I make it, how can I set myself apart from anyone else? You know, I want to be different, and two, how can I bring my love for wanting to impact them positively into that as well?
Well, we're going to deep dive into a little later as to how you do make that connection and how do you speak their language, right? Because I know, having teenagers, you know, they speak a different language than I do. But before we go there, I want to get back to this purpose and the connection of photography and teens. And yes, a lot of discovery of your why, you know, with a lot of people, it's not planned. It's nearly that there's a faith and it happens and you end up there. I don't know what it is, but you know, that can happen us all and happen to so many people. So was there a sort of a sudden aha moment that you said, this is what I've been put on this planet to do? Was there that realization, or did it sort of happen over an extended period of time when you finally had the aha moment?
I think there was definitely an aha moment when I started photographing the seniors, and I would, you know, come home from those sessions and just feel so energized. And I loved when you could show them the image just on the back of camera, and you could see them light up and go, whoa, what? That's me. Like that kind of feeling. I think that was the aha moment. It was different for me than when you photograph families. You have to, there's so many other factors. With the one person, you can really focus on them and who they are and their expressions, and talk to them and just spend that time so that you can kind of, and that's goes, and I know we might talk about this a little later, but one of the things I love about my ambassador program is that I work with these teens a lot of times before I ever photograph their full session. I've already met with them 2 or 3 times through our consults, through our ambassador meetings, and then we have one special shoot before, right off in the beginning of the year. So by the time their actual session comes around, I know them really well. And it's like you're just meeting up with, I wouldn't go as far to say a friend, because that's kind of getting old now, but still, I feel they feel comfortable with me. They trust me. They've been through, different appointments. I get what their kind of vibe is, if they're very energetic, if they're giggly, or if they're a little more serious. And I've already broken the ice in those factors. And so that helps a lot too when I photograph, because I've had them with the ambassador program.
Well, seeing as you've brought us to the KBP ambassador program, let's deep dive into that, right? So just tell us what it is first.
So my ambassador program it's very, a lot of people talk about having a model program, a spokes model program. I started it as a spokes model program. And if anyone has followed for years and years and years, photographers have had a model program, which essentially brings people into your studio who are representing your studio. So they may give referrals. There's 1,000,001 ways to do those types of programs. There's not one right way. I definitely believe that it's different for every single person. And I found that all the things that we've just talked about was how I wanted my program to kind of be represented. So I did start as spokes models, but then I found that I didn't want the model name to be into it, because they weren't models. They were ambassadors for what I wanted my studio to represent in our community. And that was positivity, kindness, that I wanted them to know that they have the power to impact their local community even further beyond, but we try to really focus local the last few years. And so I think it was 2 years ago, it might've been 3. I don't do good with timelines, but I changed it to ambassadors because I wanted it to be more about being an ambassador for that purpose, instead of it wasn't just about photography. So KBP ambassadors they come in as their junior year and they are representing my studio, but and there are photo shoots involved, but they are full paying senior clients. But we also include activities that positively impact our community themselves, hopefully give them confidence. That's more what the core program is about in a nutshell.
So how do you find your ambassadors then? Or if I am a teen in a local school, how do I even hear about it?
So Instagram and Facebook have been everything to me. So, and word of mouth, but social media, I was lucky to come in when that was really exploding. Instagram has probably been my number one way that people find me. They'll say my friend, the ambassadors kind of helped about that. I wouldn't say the ambassador program, they would refer people, but it was more of their images that were out there. To me, it's not a referral program. I don't base a lot of that on there. But by them sharing their images, but all clients sharing their images on social media, and word of mouth has been my number one way of getting business. I honestly don't know if there was something specific that I would do. I was in the school system for a few years, when I was photographing teens, but I didn't really cross that over. I tried to keep things separate. Some people would know and some people wouldn't. But social media was the number one reason people come in and say, I saw it on Instagram. Oh, I saw it on Facebook. The moms were usually on Facebook. The kids were usually on Instagram. Now I think I have been really blessed to have a kind of a reputation in our town. So I think sometimes people they know the name. And that's just something I've worked toward. I do visit the schools. I go to the yearbook classes and speak. Sometimes I partner with some of the sports teams to do like banners or things like that. But it's just consistency for me, of just consistency of posting, consistency of keeping your name out there. That's what I've had success with.
So you hit on a very interesting point there. And we talk about this a lot about, mom is on Facebook. The teen is on Facebook too, but won't interact with stuff. Yeah, they won't like or comment, but they're on Instagram. So do your inquiries to be an ambassador, do they come from mom, or do they come from the teen, or do they come from both?
So the ambassadors for my seniors. So last year I recently opened a teen program, which is 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. But that was my first year. And then my ambassadors that are coming in as juniors in high school, that usually comes from them. They have been, for me, because I've built up over the years, most of them are like, I've been waiting since I was a freshman to apply. When is it opening? I mean, I keep getting messages. I need to, open it in the next couple of weeks. But that's usually from the teens, and they've been telling their parents, this is what I want to do, or whatnot. And in our area, it's kind of common, I would say. So it's not totally unexpected for them to want to be an ambassador or something for photographers in the area, which is another reason I wanted to be able to kind of separate myself. But the teens, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, those came from the parents, those inquiries. So it was a really interesting, when I opened that last year, was a really interesting, discovery of how different, even just a couple years apart in those age groups, how different I had to run the programs because of who I was dealing with.
So for our non-American viewers and listeners, 7, 8, and 9, what age would they be?
So they would be 11, 12, 13-year-olds.
11, 12, 13.
12, 13, 14. Between 11 and 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a junior is 15 or thereabouts, is it? And then
15 to 16, depending on, some of them are, when they go into school.
Okay. So what you're telling me here, and what you're telling our listeners and our viewers who see the recordings as well, is you found a solution to a problem that a lot of photographers talk about. That is, that age group never want to be photographed, never want to be captured.
The younger one, the 6th, 7th, the 7th, 8th, 9th, right? It's an awkward age, and most families find that is the age that their children are least photographed. Absolutely. But I don't know that they don't want to. I think, well, in my experience, the families, when I talk to them, they get so busy. And when your kids are little and they're 2 and 3 and you want to capture all those moments, and you kind of try to have that time. If we look at family picture photographers, also family portrait photographers, they probably see a drop off in that range because families get busy. Their kids are playing sports. Their kids are a little bit more independent. And so that age group does drop off, and it was something I knew kind of needed to be filled.
So how do you then stand out from the noise and the distraction for that age group, and where they have a desire, where they're effectively queuing up to get their teenager involved? What's the secret sauce?
Well, I've only done it this last year. in the middle of COVID. So it was quite interesting. But I can tell you that what I found from the feedback of the parents that I had, the parents wanted them to be a part of the program because of the activities that I was doing. So it wasn't necessarily about the portraits. The kids were really excited about the portrait session. And also I just want to mention that my teen, so I call them my junior ambassadors, and then I have my ambassadors. That junior ambassador program is a very short program. It's only run, which was supposed to be during my slow season, which does not really exist anymore, which I'm grateful for, but it only runs from March to June. So when I typically was not really shooting the seniors, it starts really heavy in June. I wanted to fill that in, but also build an audience that would hopefully come back as seniors. So it's a short program. We have one short, small mini photo shoot, but then each one of those months has an activity that we would come in that was more of a character building activity, some partnership with a community service event. We did do a skincare and makeup workshop with my hair and makeup artist. So the parents, there was a social media confidence workshop. The parent, and that was the number one that the parents were like, I wanted her to be a part of it because I wanted them to have, excuse me, that experience, those experiences, those workshops. So I think that's what that the parents are buying into. What can they give their child that's going to, you know, broaden their horizons or help build their character?
So, so the parents then want, because I have had 4 teenagers at that stage, and you're right, it's an awkward stage of life for them, you know, and, you know, we don't understand them, even though we were there ourselves, because everything changes, as we said, with social media today. We didn't have that disruption. So, so the first step then is getting the parents wanting to give probably higher self-esteem often to teenagers of that age. And then the teenagers then at that stage, the teens, then as they get to know you and you inspire them and give them that self-esteem and higher self-esteem by taking part in these activities, then when they get to high school senior and need to get that senior session, they're saying to mom, there's only one photographer for me, right? Is that what you're saying to me?
Hopefully, yeah. And like I said, this was my first year doing this. So I hope to see that. I've definitely made some wonderful connections with the group that I had this year. We had a very challenging year. The program wasn't able to be run the way that it was planned because of all of the, you know, difficulties everyone's been dealing with. But despite that, I still felt like we had success and we were able to make connections with the teens. And so I hope that, yes, that turns around and they're like, want to work with me again. I think there's definitely something to be said about making connections with people. One of my schools that I work with, I work with their cheerleading program, and it just kind of something that I happened into from one of my seniors a few years ago. It would be 4 years ago now, because the girls that I'm photographing now were freshmen, and I would just go photograph their team, and do senior banners. It was an afternoon, you know, nothing too crazy, kind of quick, not what I always do, but I was able to meet these girls and give them some quick imagery. And those girls were like, I've been waiting since I was a freshman to come do my senior pictures. It's not everyone. I'm not saying I win everyone over, not by any means, but there are, you know, you're making some, and I don't need to photograph everyone either. I think that's so important, is that you have to keep in mind, you know, what your business goals are. I don't need to photograph everyone. I can't photograph everyone in our town, in our schools. But just making those connections allowed them to see me as a person and not just a social media account.
And I think that's a really important point, because a lot of photographers that I'm sure you talk to and I talk to, they think everyone is their client, right?
Yeah, and they're
But
not.
and they're not. And but what I love, and I think what you're linking for us tonight, is how discovering your purpose and your why, and why you're a photographer and the difference you make, and how that links then into who is your client.
Right, exactly. And I think, you know, I have been doing my ambassador program for a few years now. So I've built kind of an expectation of what people to expect. So it's not brand new. It may not start the way that, are you guys hearing? There's like a leaf blower. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. We can hear a little bit in the background, but it's not disturbing the message.
I was like, is it just like leaf blower? Okay. I want people to know that when I started my program and no one knew anything about it, it wasn't always attracting the right people. And it wasn't always like 100% successful. I have been through, in particularly one year, I had a great year, and then the next year I didn't, and I had to reevaluate why. And that's just part of business. And it wasn't, I learned from that year, and it wasn't necessarily that it was a terrible year, but my numbers were lower, and there were a lot of factors that went into that. But I think, again, it goes back to a journey, and every year I reevaluate, is this still the purpose that I want? Am I getting that purpose out there so people know? And now that have kind of established that purpose, I'm drawing the people to me that I enjoy working with as well. And that is like the cherry on top, because I attract people that have the same sort of ideals that I also have. And so when you work with people like that and you surround yourself with people, it makes your job even more fun, and it makes and kind of easier, but even more fun for sure.
So do you find then that, your ideal clients over time, that their friends or the families that they're friends with in your community share similar values to them, and therefore share similar values to you, and that's how the recommendation engine works?
I think so. And I don't think that means that we all agree on everything or have the exact same values across the board. But I think that they're the same. The girls that I seem to attract do want to give back to their community. They want to make they're like, I do want to give back. I do want to be a positive influence, because the girls, there are people out there that doesn't mean anything to them. So they're not going to come here because they might go to someone who has a program that is based around having 5 photo shoots, and that's fine, because that appeals to them more. That's just like going back to everyone's not your client. Sometimes I would get kind of sad if somebody that I knew didn't come to me, but then I would realize, but they didn't come to me because I wasn't offering what was important to them. And so it wouldn't have been a good fit because they didn't care about the community service. They didn't want to do, the types of activities that I was doing. And I'm okay with that now, because that's what's so important to me and what my business represents, that I don't want just anyone to come if it's not going to fit their needs as well.
So, Kristie, is it mainly girls that are your client, or are there boys as well?
So this year I have 2 boys that are in my ambassador program and 1 boy that's my teen. And it's been really fun. I have had to kind of switch my mindset a little bit, because I have had all girls as ambassadors in the past. So we would do cute, if you can't tell my color scheme, everybody who knows me knows I like white and turquoise and all of those things. And I would have like turquoise shirts, and so I had to adjust some of my swag, or we did some of our theme for our photo shoots have to be adjusted a little bit, because I am starting to attract some of the guys as well, and I love it. I have 2 boys. My boys are young. And but they're starting to get big now. Like, they're not babies anymore. And so when I see these boys come in, I kind of get a little sentimental. So I love having the boys in. So I may be transitioning that way. It wasn't something that I decided and said, I only want to work with girls. I think it was something that in the beginning, it was all I was showing, because that's who I started photographing. And once I start photographing more boys and showing that work, more boys started coming in. And I love it. I love working with both of them.
So is there a big difference between what the boys want and the girls want, or is there a difference at all?
The girls are more there because they wanted the photographs, they want to be there, and they want to be that community service. The boys still are somewhat there because their moms want them to be there. But also I have amazing young men that I'm working with, and they have big hearts. So I think I still attracted, the clients that I wanted, who have those big hearts, who have that, desire to be a positive impact in their community. But I'm not going to lie. I think the moms did have a big impact on that as well. I think their moms, wanted them to have their portraits done. One of them, he's the fourth of many, and his sisters had portraits done. So he knew, he was going to get senior portraits, and he was great. We had lots of fun with his session. The other one's an oldest child, and he's super sweet as well. So I think it's a kind of a combination. But again, they still have that big heart that they want to be a part of a program that is positive and gives back.
So, and I think this has been really, really clever, because, Gen Z or Gen Z, depending which part of the world you're from and how you pronounce it, it's been shown that one of the key differences between them and previous generations is that, they really care about people, and they want to have, they want to make a real difference to the world. They're inheriting a world that maybe isn't as green as it should be. And, where people, it's been shown that, diversity is literally not for debate with them, and that they see everyone as an equal, whether they're male or female, or the color of the skin or the religion, it doesn't matter, or the language that they speak. So what I'd love to do is discuss with you for a few moments, if we can, how do you go about positioning your business to represent your why, but also connect with them? So how have you managed to bring
Can
your...
you hold on 1 second? Let me go ask this nice man so he can move on for a minute.
No problem. So I hope you're enjoying this conversation, guys. I'm always fascinated by how people who've discovered their why and how they connect it into messaging that connects with their clients. So we've had a lot of people go through the BSA mastermind sessions at the moment, and we're at that stage, and it's a big challenge. While you were gone there, and I was just explaining to people that a lot of photographers I talk to who are going through this and they've discovered their why, we struggle often sometimes to connect that with messaging that connects with that client, that means something. So I'm fascinated about, for someone who's already done that, how have you managed to do that?
How have I managed to show what my why is? Is that what you're asking?
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is, so you discovered your why, which was combine photography with teens to give them a higher self-esteem. I think that's, and you've done that by identifying teens and their parents who want to invest in their community, make a difference. Exactly. That's what I've got from our conversation.
Yes, so exactly.
So I'm trying to figure out then, how have you turned that into messaging that connects with those people, both the parents and the teens? How
I think what I would say, just again, going back to the consistency of what I put out there social media wise, I also think a big part is partnering with local businesses and organizations that that have those same values that I'm trying to put into the community, has been a huge impact. So if I each year we have a charity fashion show. So each year we partner with an organization to raise money for them. And then I partner with local boutiques to put on that fashion show. And through that, it's not a giant fashion show. It is not Paris Fashion Week. It is everyday girls and guys, walking down a very, it's down to earth, but it is impactful because of who we get to partner with and work with. And I mean, even not many girls get to get all dressed up and get their hair and makeup done and walk down a runway and have music. And it's a fun night. And we also do shopping for the boutiques. So it's a combination of supporting local and raising money. So I think when I do those kinds of things, that not only is feeding my heart to what I wanted, I love doing that, but it is connecting me to the kind of people that I want to work with as well.
But it's also delivering into your business community, right? Those charities and boutiques must just love you and what you do.
I hope they do. I mean, I enjoy that I get to support them. I mean, we all know that it's hard to be a small business, and it's hard to get your name out there. And the more that we can all come together, the fashion show was actually started by with myself and one of my great friends who is also a photographer. Her studio is actually right behind me. We're within walking distance of each other. But years ago, she was running a spokesmodel program, and I was running a spokesmodel program, and we actually joined forces and ran the fashion show together. So our teams walked together, and it was really nice because it was something that we wanted to do, but we didn't know, if we could take it on alone. And so by doing it together, we could, tackle that big dream of ours. And since she's kind of she's grown she has an amazing business, but she focuses more on other genres of photography, as well as she's a hair and makeup artist. And so she's kind of moved on, and I just kept going that way. So I do run it with just my ambassadors now, but I think the partnerships that you build in your community, whether it be even with other local photographers, I think makes us all much stronger.
I think that's such an important point. I want to go back to the community in a second, but I want to talk about that idea of partnering with another photographer, because so many photographers I know would go, you must be joking, around the corner. But I think, when we look at our communities and we look at how many clients we need a year, that there's plenty of business out there for everybody. Isn't it great to be able to make that connection with a fellow photographer, but you're subtly different because you're looking after, maybe she's going to do mum shoot, and you're doing the high school senior or whatever that may be, and how you can work together in the community. But I talk a lot about, the ideal is a win-win-win. If you can create 3 wins, but you've actually created 4, which I've never actually seen before, or it's never come to my mind, because you're creating a win for the team. You're creating a win for a local business in terms of the boutique, while creating a win for a charity, and then a win for you in business. So that's 4 wins. That's quite amazing. So I love what you're doing there.
Thank
but
you.
If we can go back to the messaging, because I know this is key for people, and I know you're getting across your messaging by those connections and stuff. But how does it influence the words you use, for example, on your website, or if you're running an advert, or you're running, I don't know if you do Facebook advertising or anything like that, but even how, the words you put with the images you post even on social media, is there a connection there, or how do you connect those?
I mean, I don't know that I just be myself. I'm not sure if I have a this is the ticket, this is how you have to do it. I've just I've always kind of followed my gut and done what kind of feels right. And consistency. I did study communication and journalism, so that the marketing piece, that kind of stuff is sort of innately in me. I love branding. Obviously, I have my, colors and branding and stuff. So I think the consistency of putting consistent work. And then, yes, the words. KBP ambassadors, like people just say that. People say KBP. And it wasn't something that I think I set out doing purposefully, but I used it over and over and over so that it became just, that's what you said. And so I think consistency is the number one thing that I always tell people. If you're starting out, just be very consistent. It doesn't mean like, if you didn't post one day on social media, it's okay, but be consistent on what you're putting out there. I always try to be very positive. In any of my branding, if you look at it, most people know that it's coming from my studio.
I think that's such an important point, because as creatives, I think sometimes, we get bored. So we create we create a message, and then we think, oh, I've used that for a month, so I need to change it again.
Right.
But it's not like that, right?
No, and I think it goes back to, studying advertising. People have to see, the same thing so many times before they actually might act on it. And so even though I'm not really ready to launch my ambassador program, I have been putting little like tidbits out. These are some of the features that are happening. Don't worry, get ready, it's coming. But just so that it's like putting the little, like, I guess they say, like a bug in your ear, so they're seeing it. So that when it does come out, they're like, oh yeah, I already saw that. You can't just put something out tomorrow and expect people to be like, oh yes, let me do it, because they don't know what you're talking about. So you have to build that. And that's why, like, as you do things over and over again, you're building the expectation of people have. So those freshmen that I worked with, and then I worked with them their sophomore year, and then they wanted to come back their senior year, or when we do the fashion show, those kids they know, they're like, oh, I can't wait to walk the fashion show when I'm a senior. So sometimes it takes a lot of time. It's not an overnight thing. But if you are consistently putting that message out and letting people know, even if you're not totally ready to announce things, just let people know it's coming, because then they'll get them thinking. And also, when I do that, I always, every year for like my ambassadors, especially, design an ad. And I might change up the imagery a little bit, or even the wording a little bit, but it's always going to be the same. So when they see it once and they say, oh, the KBP ambassador applications are open, they see it again, it might have a little bit different imagery, but it says the same thing. So they're like, oh yeah, I need to go do that. So, oh, I lose you. Oh, there we are.
You're there.
So I think
You're there.
that consistency. Now my phone's dying, of course.
So tell me this: if people want, do you have a mentor program for other photographers to learn your special ways and how you do this, or? Okay, you're muted now.
Okay,
there
sorry.
you go.
I'm sorry, Ronan. I promise I'm not, I'm tech savvy.
That's all right. These things we plan for all these eventualities, and I know you were testing earlier today, and sometimes these things go wrong, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry. Can you ask that question again?
Yeah. So what I was wondering was, so you obviously have a magic formula, and I'm sure there's going to be viewers who would love to learn that formula. Do you have do you do mentoring or training of photographers, or?
I do mentoring. It has been on my to-do list for a while now, to create some courses. It's definitely something I've been really, my business has been growing. And so I have to really set some time aside to do that. But I would, you know, if I think, I love sharing. I love just telling people what has worked so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I am all about that. So I definitely offer mentoring. I've mentored a couple of photographers via like Zoom from all around, starting programs. I think the thing to, again, that I want to kind of reinforce is that I would love to work with people and help people, but they have to find what speaks to them. So I will share all the great things that I think has been successful for me. And then people, they have to find what makes their heart sing, because that's when you really become successful, because it doesn't become a job anymore. And I love photographing, but I'm going to be honest, like the stuff that makes my heart sing is my ambassador program. And those moments when they're walking the fashion show and they just are like beaming and they're like, what, this is like the coolest thing. Or, you know, the fashion show this year, I had a teen, we raised money for a organization that supports families of kids with cancer. And one of my ambassadors last year was unfortunately a recipient of their services. And her family came and spoke at our show this year, and there was not a dry eye in the house. And that is like the most memorable moment of my year, just seeing how this organization impacted them and that we're able to support them. So that feeds me so much. And although I love photographing and the joy of seeing these girls see how beautiful they are in my eyes, those other little moments keep me going on days where I'm like, I don't know if I can do another session.
You are an absolute inspiration. I knew from the minute we met early on in the rollout of the think tank, when we were all in lockdown and quarantine, and I saw you on social media, I just went, oh my gosh, there's a photographer with a purpose and a message that has to get out there. So it was a deep honor to have you involved in the think tank all through the initial stages, and a bigger honor now to actually have a good chat on a one-on-one basis. You're an inspiration to us all. So if people do want to connect with you, where do they find you? Is it your website?
Yeah, so I want to say thank you for inviting me, because it is an honor for you. When you reached out, I was, thrilled and nervous. And this conversation has been amazing. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share. If anyone does want to get in touch, yes, my website has contact information. It's www.kristiebradleyphotography.com. And my email is info@kristiebradleyphotography.com. So very straightforward.
Brilliant. Listen, I could talk to you all night, and I can't wait till we get an opportunity to meet in person at a show or somewhere when we're all able to do that again. But thank you so much for sharing tonight. You're an inspiration to us all. And I love the way you've managed to connect that purpose and that why with what you do on a daily basis. And as you said before, as you said a few months ago, it's no longer work, right? It's once you discover that purpose, it doesn't become work. It doesn't become a chore anymore. It becomes a mission. And I love what you're doing. And thank you for everything you do for your community and the people in your community. And thank you for sharing with us all tonight. We really appreciate it. And I know everyone who sees the recording will learn so much from it as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Stay
Ronan.
safe. Stay healthy, everybody. We'll see you all soon. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.